This is another video for myself. The title of it will be named Sweeping It Under the Rug. God gave me an epiphany the last couple days, reoccurring in the sense where the old quote I'm sure a lot of people heard is, oh, just sweep it under the rug. And the last few days I realized God gave me an epiphany in the sense where I've swept things my whole life under the rug. And after the first few times, it becomes a habit. And eventually you do. Ow, my dad's cat is scratching my legs, trying to get my attention. However, my whole life I've been sweeping it under the rug. And at first it seems okay, seems natural. However, it becomes a habit, and then basically where the epiphany starts from that infamous quote of sweeping it under the rug. What they don't tell you is that at the end of your life, before you even walk through that door, if you're able to even open it, you'll see the rug is a mountain. And as you unveil the rug, it's just a mountain of dust and dirt and just trash maybe and whatever else. And you look at that, if you ever get to that point in life, you could just look at that pile of dust and realize that's your next life, dead. Because you've wasted it all away in this one life. And out of fear of being held accountable and responsible for one's own actions, you will eventually have to pay the price. And that's what the mountain of dust is. The mountain of dust is all the fears. It's all the fears that one has growing up, and thinking that you're not good enough, or that you don't have something to offer to anyone as you grow through your life, or you believe you're always sinking. And I say all of this and as someone who has lived that, as just someone who was constantly negative. I was constantly negative. Even though on the exterior I was always putting out good energy, but never putting that for myself. So I was slowly just killing myself, especially using habits and methods, or whatever you want to call them, vices, this, that, and the other. It doesn't really have to be this. It's all about perspective, because even people could overeat, people could lie, people could steal. And even me, I'm getting antsy right now, because not that the topic's hard, but it's really all just one and the same. And finding a balance between the good things in life and staying away from the bad. We all know what is good and bad internally. Initially, God gave us that. And, well, I'm not sure. That's where the epiphany ends, with the mountain of dust under the rug. And I feel like out of fear, it could be scary to look at the mountain. However, if you still have a chance to look at the mountain of dust, and it could be overwhelming and scary, and whatever word you want to put it. I know for me it's sometimes difficult, so that's why I just say these simple words that people could understand. I'm not saying that I'm linguistically better than anyone. It's just I strive to find the actual word, even though the actual word is just my perspective of it. It's not the truth. It's just an opinion of one certain language of English or whatever. So I try to describe things, not prescribe them. And I learned that from Introduction to Linguistics, so it's not a quote that I could say I made it up. I read it during the textbook. I read it during the semester in the textbook, and I was just like, wow, what a quote, I feel like that quote was more inspiring than just the linguistic side of it, even though it really was inspiring for the linguistic side, thinking and growing up in America. English is this and that, but No, that's how they program you to believe that English is the most modern and dominant language. But if you think about it right and you have a good understanding, every language is just different and it's all the one and the same. So, and, you know, and that in itself, I'm not trying to get off topic, but um, if you were to study linguistics, I believe that you would be able to find that how when in chapter 11 of Genesis, when God separates Babel and makes them go on their separate ways and confuses the whole language of the world because they were one. I think linguistics, the study of that and how it's becoming more scientifically modern with, scientific methods backing up the field and the department, or hope I'm saying all that right. I truly believe that, and maybe it's by design like that, so they could just promote that there was an ancient city with one language, or one unique God, or however they're going to paint it, because it's developing, even though the world's getting more crazier. But even though saying all of that, it shouldn't deteriorate from oneself of looking at the mountain and holding ourselves responsible and accountable for all the mistakes and all the choices we have made. We can't, for others who have chosen how they've lived their lives and how they've acted and continue or change or whatever, it's all up to them. We can only do what we can for ourselves in the sense of mindset, our actions, and the words that we use. So, and with those three things, if you start treating if you start treating your mindset, your actions, and your words differently for yourself, you begin to change yourself. And I think that's where people get fearful that they can't change because they see that mountain of dust. But trust me, the fear of not cleaning it up, the outcome of not cleaning up the pile is way more fearful than not cleaning it up. Because with what I wanted to say with all of that is that if God's allowing you to see that mountain pile of dust, then you have a chance, an opportunity to clean it. And I don't think this whole conversation, I don't want to make it sound fearful for myself, because God created man out of the dust of the earth. And that's what he tells the serpent. And I'm sure maybe he was directly telling the serpent. I don't have the Bible in front of me, and I don't have any other technology device on me to read it to you, which I do have electronic versions of the Bible. I just don't have any of them with me right now. My bad. I've only slept for 9 hours or 10 hours the last 2 days, and I'm just kind of doing my best. I am doing my best, enjoying this day off. I was supposed to work today, and I low-key just knew, as I was not even gonna clock in, but as I was walking in, I already knew. As I was pulling up to the work, I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to be there for 8 hours, and I was able to get the rest of the day off. But yeah, I wanted to say all that because God created the first man out of dust, and then he created the woman out of his rib. So us as man, we are dust. And if we never repent and we never see Jesus in our hearts, or seek him, I should say, in this life, then we will return to dust, like how God tells the serpent in chapter 3 of Genesis. So, but today is a beautiful day. It's Monday, August 17th, 2026. And it is beautiful. And it is worth to make it while, and not make excuses. Hold yourself accountable for what you should hold yourself accountable for, the things you actually have done, not for the not the false realities one makes, or one other person tries to implement on you externally. Hopefully that made sense. But I hope this whole video made sense. I feel like just my mind's not racing at all. It's just I am doing my best to be authentic in a time where I just kind of need a rest, but I have faith in the Most High God in the sense where however it's going to play out, it's going to play out. And I do my best, or at least seeking Him, I realize what's more important in life. Because with me, I cannot do anything. I really can't. I always go back to old patterns. I always go back to old habits, I should say. Not old patterns, old habits. However, I have faith as I get closer to God that what society says and has been trying to implement for decades, and even before our own times and our own parents' times, and during the ancestors' times, if anything. But I am doing my best to just not even pay attention to none of this propaganda with how one should treat themselves and the health issues and all these health illnesses and all these names and blah blah blah. I have no fear over all these names that they make, because it's just their interpretation of it. Them trying to put a name, not even put a name, trying to put a label on it, because they wouldn't even want to begin to understand it. They just want to define it so they could use it against whoever. It doesn't matter. And so, well, with that all being said, we have to look within ourselves and trust. You will see, not trust me, but trust God, because there's no man that can do this or that, what God does. And I say that to put it in simple terms, because God is possible of anything, and with man nothing is possible. And it's funny because you wouldn't even have to read the Bible to understand concepts like that. It's just people, I guess, are like NPCs nowadays or something. I don't want to put labels on it because my perspective doesn't even matter of it. It's just, I say all that because not even them and not even family members will get in the way of God's will, in the sense where you'd rather, and it takes time, but you'd rather prefer that God takes care of your brother and your sister and your mother and your father, your grandparents, your friends, your loved ones, rather than putting your own 2 cents or 25 cents trying to play the game every time with their emotions or with what they're going through in life. I'm not perfect, so I'll always slip and slide maybe once in a while. However, I'm not the same person how I once was. That, I guess, in the sense, I am, but something in me is changing. My attitude and just the way I see things in life, and not trying to make excuses anymore, because I realized I could have died a long time ago. I could have just died a long time ago. Not by my own hands either, even though I could have done it. It's just, once you feel trapped and you feel like you were forced to fight in life, you do anything just to like do this or that, prove yourself that you're a man. But that's just so bogus. It's not important. It's very not important. The most manliest thing you could do is be yourself. The easiest thing in life is to die. Life, it's hard living. Life is pain. There's no easy living. Life is not fair. And we grow up thinking with our childish mind and sin waiting at the door. And God's always with us, but trust, the enemy's always lurking, and, well, God is the one who tempts us, and we decide at the end of the day. You cannot get it twisted. It's all God's creation at the end of it, and whatever's evil of it, that's just the twisted enemy doing it. And all that was made, and that was not made. I think that's a verse in the Bible that people really don't, I don't even fully comprehend it. However, I have a certain different view lens on that, because it's powerful. It kind of, with the Psalm quote of, in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thou art the right staff, or thou art the staff in my right hand. That psalm, in the valley of the shadow of death, death is nothing but a shadow. And that's when I realized, like a month ago, God made me realize as well, another epiphany, that question people ask, when have you been afraid of your own shadow? They're talking about, why are you afraid of death? That's pretty much, depending on the context, that's literally what they could be telling you with that quote, which that growing up has always been stuck with me. When have you been afraid of your own shadow? In the sense, with the context that it's being used, it could be different. You could say that to someone who's being embarrassed to go up and perform or do something in public, you know? And in the context that I'm referring to is that shadow and death being together in the verse, that just proves that death is nothing but a shadow. Death is not real. Death is literally like your shadow. It moves as you move, but it's not constant. It's not there. It's nothing to fear because it's a part of you. It's a part of life. It's natural. And so I think that was another epiphany. I wasn't even thinking about talking in this video today. However, I think it worked out because that one was very powerful for me too, realizing that's why they refer, and that's why in King David, I want to say, who wrote Psalms, that's why he wrote it like that, in the valley of the shadow of death. And that's just crazy because death is nothing but a shadow. And it's nothing to fear of because you have one of yourself. And well, but I hope this video was well, I made it for myself, so but thank you guys for watching. Seriously, if any of you guys sticked through the whole video, I hope that my little ramble wasn't so rambly and my words made sense, because just my mind's not really here right now, and I figured I'd make a video for myself. I see this as my video diary, I guess vlog I should say, of just vlogging in videos from my own self. And more so, I'll see these videos when I need to see them if I rewatch them, and I don't want to say I don't care. However, I know it's God's will. Whoever listens to these videos will listen to them, and whoever doesn't, it's okay. I don't do it for views or numbers or money anymore. God knows that for real, and God knows how in the past I always would make not just YouTube accounts, but for anything, just trying to see how to make a profit or how much I could do with it, but always for my own desires and my own gains. And so I only seek God now. I mean, I want to say I seek him with my stony heart, and through this process I know I have faith. So I could only say it like that. I'll never be perfect though. Only his son is perfect. And he was the only perfect man that roamed the planet, and he was crucified by the Romans, by us though. But he died for us, for the ones who believe in his heart and follow his commandments. Not his commandments, but the Father's commandments, the one who's in heaven, the one whose kingdom is going to return, and not return, but be implemented for eternity as it was promised in the beginning. However, I pray that God blesses all of you guys who watch this, and I pray that you guys keep your head up so you don't miss the next opportunity in life. You never know when it's going to happen. And don't be afraid when it's spitting on your shoes, because you'll regret it. And realize that at the end of life, all of us men and even women will all have an ounce of regret, but just make it an ounce. Don't make it your whole life. And realize that I was just speaking about God's kingdom and how it's eternal, and that was the initial promise from the beginning. So imagine an eternity, 1,000,000 years, and it's like you were born that day. I say that so you could have, not you, but for myself, so I could remind myself that to have the perspective that you won't be able to do all that you really want to do in this life. And I think that's where you have to, not the free will, but your choice, your decision that God ultimately gives everyone. And you know, There's no right or wrong. It's just how you look at it and what you do with it. Only God knows that. God knows the heart of every man, and only him. Don't let any other man fool you about that. God bless you, all right? Have a blessed weekend. Not weekend, but week into the weekend. See you guys soon.